Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we are diving into a custom desk build. If you're into budget-friendly DIYs or just love watching people build stuff, then you are definitely in the right place. I'm putting this desk together using a couple of timber panels and some legs I scored for just $10. I'm kicking this project off by cutting one of our panels down to size. I picked these up for $39 each. One will be used to build a little storage cubby that will sit under the desk, and the other will be the actual desktop. The one I'm starting with is the desktop. I decided on dimensions of 1.2 meters long by 50 centimeters wide. I didn't want something excessively large, and considering where I'm putting the desk, this is going to be the perfect size. I work with these panels pretty often for all sorts of projects, and they always chew through my sandpaper when I'm removing the finish, so lately I've started stripping them first. It's made the sanding process much easier. Once the top coat was removed, I went in with 120 grit, then 180 grit, and I finished it off with 240 for a nice smooth finish. My sincerest apologies, I got so focused on nailing this next step that I completely forgot to film it. I used my router to add a beautiful edge detail to the desktop. This tool is a recent addition to my collection and I'm still learning how to use it properly, but so far it has been an absolute game changer. Now that everything has been sanded, it's time to move on to staining. I went with a colour called Black Japan, but I did dilute it slightly so it's not jet black. This way it'll match the rest of my furniture nicely. Once I had finished staining, I let it dry for a few hours and I went back in with my go-to finish, which is just a simple furniture wax. I personally prefer it over varnish because I love a true matte finish. Even a matte varnish tends to leave a bit of shine or sheen, and that's just really not what I'm looking for. At this stage it's getting pretty late, so I'm going to let the wax dry overnight and I will give it a nice buff in the morning. It's the next day, and now that the top is done, I'm moving on to another element of this desk build. I'm going to make a storage shelf or cubby that will sit to one side of the desk, and it'll also double as the legs for that side. I get started and go ahead cutting all my pieces to the right size. The shelf itself was actually quite simple to make. It's very beginner friendly and definitely easy enough for anyone to put together. Now that I have all my pieces cut, I'm going to start sanding. It's much easier to tackle this step now rather than waiting until everything's already assembled. Getting a nice smooth finish at this stage will save me a lot of time and effort later on. Here I'm doing a quick dry fit to make sure all the spacings are accurate before committing to any screws. This also helps me double check the layout and visualize how everything's going to come together. I start by attaching the top and the bottom panels to form a basic frame and make sure that everything is square, and once that's secure I move on to fitting the inner shelves. With the assembly now complete, I'm moving on to filling all the screw holes. Since I'm going to be using such a dark stain, these will end up being almost invisible. I could have definitely used pocket holes or nails, but I chose this method because it's very simple and it's just as effective. Let's be real, not all of us are master woodworkers, myself included, and this way feels a lot more approachable for your average DIYer, and the final finish will still look just as great. After letting the filler dry, I gave it a good sanding to smooth everything out, and now I can move on to my favourite part, stain. I'm using the same colour as the desktop. This will tie both the elements together and create a more cohesive look. Once the stain is done, I finish it off with a coat of wax, and then I move on to attaching the legs to the desktop. I picked up these legs on Facebook Marketplace for just $10, which is honestly a steal. If you are working on a tight budget like me most of the time, I seriously recommend checking Marketplace. 9 times out of 10, you'll find exactly what you're looking for whatever that project may be. I was even considering grabbing one of the free tables listed, just so I could repurpose the legs for this desk. Plus, that would have given me a tabletop to reuse as scrap wood for a future project. The point is, you don't need to spend hundreds of dollars on materials. This entire project came in just under $100, but do keep in mind, I already had the stain and all the tools it took to get it done. Here is where you really start to see my vision for this desk come together. The cubby I built fits right in here and just adds some much needed storage. So the height of the shelf didn't quite match the desk legs, so to even this out, I used some offcuts I had laying around and built some sort of upper skirt. I made the skirt just slightly shorter than the overall leg height, so I could tuck some bumpers underneath the shelf. That would give me the illusion that the shelf is floating slightly off the floor. To attach both the skirt and the shelf to the desktop, I used L brackets. It was the best solution I could come up with that didn't involve drilling through the top of the desk. This way all the brackets and the screws are hidden. I'll admit it wasn't my most genius idea, but if I had taken more time to plan, I probably would have done it differently. But I'll be honest, I was really trying to get this project finished today. Once I had the skirt and cubby securely attached, I went ahead and did the staining and waxing off camera, and with that done, this build was officially complete. I'm really happy with how it turned out. I managed to knock this project out in just a couple of days between juggling my son. It's simple, functional, and made on a budget. I really hope this gave you some inspiration for the project you're currently doing, or maybe even to start a new one. If you enjoyed the video, please don't forget to give it a like. This really helps me out. And maybe even subscribe. I have plenty more DIY builds coming up in the near future. Thanks for hanging out with me today. I'll catch you guys in the next one.